Greetings YouTube, and welcome to my latest weapons build. This is the Sprocket Fist. That's something I made quite recently, and I decided I would like to make a Sawtooth counterpart to this particular item. It's not going to be identical, but it's going to be built in a similar theme. So I've chosen this particular saw blade because it's roughly the same diameter, so that's going to be the base I'm going to be working from. And I'm going to be cutting it off just in that space between those two lines right there, and that's going to give me this much to work with. And then I'll have to cut out a clearance from my hand. I'll have to figure out what shape I want it to be. It doesn't have to be an arch like this one. It could be something other shape. I'll look at it and figure out what I want. And I'm thinking of making it so that the section here is a little bit wider than the section here, so it'll be somewhat asymmetric in that regard. And this is a Vermont American resharpenable blade, 10 inches, 18 teeth, and interestingly, it was someone named Quentin was involved in this, and it was sharpened in September of 2005. 28 teeth, sorry, not 18. I picked this up at an estate sale, so I paid very little money for this at all. So that's what I'm using here. Made in USA. I don't know how much that is true any longer. I have no idea how old this thing is. Just because it was sharpened in 2005 doesn't mean it was bought anytime around that date. And I'm going to use this piece of steel, which is part of a bed frame. You can see there's the fit in there, and it's actually got slots here where you would actually have connected it to another section to make the size frame that you needed for the bed in question, because many bed frames are designed to fit more than one mattress size. Because of those slots, I can't really use this face all that well, so I'm going to try to make two pieces of plastic out of this. But I would like to preserve as much of this as possible, so I'm going to grind off those two posts and try to separate that right there. That will give me the maximum amount of material I can get from this piece of angle iron right there, as well as preserving this here potentially for some other use in the future, because these holes in here and this flat stock means that this whole thing could become a potential back spike or something like that on another build. So I'd like to preserve this right now. Obviously I'm not going to be preserving this thing. I would eventually get rid of this. I have no need for a little roller, though the actual fork here could be kind of interesting. I don't know, I might find a use for the fork. Making an interesting U-channel can always be handy for something. So the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to work on this. So I'm going to get my angle grinding discs, one of these right here, not gold one of those right there, and that one's designed for wood, though I have abused it and use it for aluminum. And I'm going to grind off those two posts right there, the back sides of two rivets, and then separate these things. And I just recently acquired some driving pins. So you got, come on, you can do it, you can do it. There we go. Driving pins, so that'll make getting those things out of there easier. And these are number 5 S75 General Drive Pin Punches, and I picked these up at an estate sale for a really nice price, and I happen to really also like the case. I thought that was kind of cool. And these are also, in case you care, made in New York, in the United States. This is the General Hardware Manufacturing Company Incorporated. That's a big ass name. Alrighty, so the first thing I need to do is get rid of these two rivets and then separate this whole thing so that I can salvage these parts for future use and this as much as possible for this project. So I've broken down the components now. These are not exactly perfectly parallel, but that's okay. I'll be wrapping these up, and the sections that are factory made will be on the bottom where your palm will become in contact with them. These holes are being reused from ones that already existed there, and once I figure everything out, I will be laying in holes here, and I'll probably be putting a slight radius on this end like I did on the other. And here we have the blade separated, so this piece I will find some use for at some point in the future, I'm sure. And this is now set up so I can now figure out what I want for my radius from my hand, leaving enough on either side so that I have something to work with to attach the handle with. I'm not 100% sure if that's going to be the final length yet. I would have given myself a little wiggle room, so I cut these a little on the long side just in case I needed it. So now I need to figure out what shape and the outline that is, and then start working on that. And that's probably going to be a process of taking some chunks off, like chunk, 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 chunk with my angle grinder, and then coming in with the grinding wheel and then finishing the shape out. Because in the past I've attempted to do the peck and cut method, where you peck holes and then you cut between them, but this is hardened steel, and drilling holes through this, even with carbide circle cutters, is a bear. It is easier to cut this by far with an angle grinder and then to work on grinding it down later than trying to peck holes and then meet the holes up so the whole section drops out. It's just not worth it. So I'm going to now figure out the shape I need, and once I have the shape figured out, then I'm going to need to start hogging out the material so there's a place for my hand to go. And then once I get that done, then I can figure out the exact length and placement of holes. These will obviously be matching each other when I'm finished. They're going to go like that, essentially, one on either side. And then they'll do the same on the other side. And then I'm going to find something to wrap this with. I haven't decided how I'm going to cover that up. That has not been finalized yet. Obviously, the simplest method would just be do a cord wrap, but that would mean passing the cord through the cutout every single time I want to wrap it. While possible, could be a pain in the butt. We'll see what happens, because I'm gonna have to unwind that much, wind it back up again, and then pass it through. Yeah, it's doable, but it would be a bit frustrating. But we'll see what happens. That may be what I have to do, because that may be the best method for covering these up and giving myself a comfortable grip. So, figure out this shape and or size, then start working on getting that out of my way. So all the components are now ready. I ended up cutting out a big chunk here, and then I nibbled it up a little bit of pieces with my angle grinding with the cutoff bit. Then I went in with my grinding bit, and then I went with my flap wheel, and I used my Peter Pan smooth jar lid from my 1/4 jar to give me that radius. So that's going to be here. I decided not to go with the radius because I kind of went with a curve then a straight here. So I went with a straight because that's going to come off essentially there, where that radius is right there. That's where it's going to drop off. So I just nipped the corners off to match this, and I did the same on this side, even though it isn't necessarily necessary. It isn't necessary. I just to get, balance there. So now that is all taken care of. So now I need to get some bolts prepared. I don't have any bolts yet. So I need to make 2 bolts with. I'm going to be using cap nuts on both sides because I think that's going to look the. Actually, do I want cap nuts or not? I'm going to poke around for a second. Maybe I can do something a little more different. Maybe I can do something different. Yeah, let me go. I'm going to take a look at the fastener situation for a sec. But at the moment, I need to start thinking about how I want to wrap it. So once I figure out my bolt process, I want to figure out how I want to wrap this or not. What's going to cover this? Because this is by itself is not going to be thick enough. It's not going to give you enough of a grip, I don't think. I will check that to make sure before I go any further. But I think I'm definitely going to have to wrap that with something. And aesthetically, it would be cooler. Also, I would like to recommend you get yourself some carbide drill bits. These are not the bits I use for my everyday things. But when I have to drill hardened steel like this is the way to go. I picked this up off of Amazon. I think I paid 16 bucks for it, but it is worth its weight in gold, folks. I have drilled through so much hardened steel with that bit, and it has done an excellent job every single time. I don't use it on regular stuff because while it is hard enough, it leaves a horrible burr. It leaves a nasty burr on the backside. In fact, on this one, I just use my my cutoff wheel on my angle grinder and just zip, 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 and just kind of polish the burrs off because you're not going to see it. But it leaves nasty burrs, it really does. But it drills beautifully through hardened steel. So yeah, get yourself at least a couple of these, folks, and you're going to want to drill that at a low RPM. I recommend you using some kind of a guide if you have a hand drill. If you don't, and preferably a drill press of some kind. But if you don't, if you have one of those guides that'll help you get a square hole in something, definitely use lowest the RPM that you can get away with, because this thing needs that. You don't want it to overheat. You don't want it to go too fast. You'll ruin the carbide, and you won't get your hole. So yeah, low RPM, lubricate it, and preferably use a drill press. Or best yet, use a mill. Boy, do I wish I had a mill. I don't have a mill. Okay, alrighty, so let's look at bolts and then see how I want to wrap that handle. So here we have the finished product. I decided I'd just go with the wrap because, well, I used, what did I use? Well, obviously orange, but this right here fits in here, so I essentially used this to help thread it through, and just went very slowly. Go through, pin it in place, go through, pin it in place, just again and again and again. So there you have it. I went with some bolts I had kicking around that were free. These bolts and nuts cost me nothing. I got them from salvage, so I used with those, and I kind of like the way that looks. I really like the way this thing came together, and it is very comfortable, and it is very fast. This thing is just awesome, and I think it makes a nice accompaniment to the sprocket fist. I will be calling this the Sawtooth fist for obvious reasons. So there you have it. We'll get these two things together in a shot. So nice little project. Both of these were single morning projects. In fact, I think this one may have taken me less time because working with this aluminum was kind of a pain in the butt. And in fact, I spent the last 10 minutes listening to the radio and cleaning off my bench because it still had aluminum chips all over it from when I worked on this. Because when I was using this thing to get it, it was using this wheel here, which is designed for wood on aluminum. I was getting pinged in the face and the legs, and it was unpleasant, and to say the least, when it came to working this. But it did come out nice. This was much easier to work with, even though it's hardened steel, because it's thinner, and I could use my angle grinder to cut out the big chunks. Something I really couldn't do here because the angle grinder is not going to work on this, and the saw I have, I guess I could have probably used it, maybe tried a saber saw on this. It's awfully thick aluminum, I don't know, but it's done. I don't have to worry about it right now. So I've still got the piece left over from this and the piece left over from that. Maybe I could put them together and make a project. That's an idea. Take the two halves from these two projects and marry them together into one project. I just thought of that. Yeah. Oh, I'll think about that next. Okay, so this has been the Sawtooth fist. I'm very happy with it. It came out nice. And again, I think it's a nice accompaniment to my sprocket fist. So if you do not follow me on Instagram and DeviantArt, you should. On DeviantArt, I post all of the permanent stills from my projects, and on Instagram, I post salvage pictures, previews sometimes, and of course cute cat pictures, and who doesn't love cute cat pictures? So in closing, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope that you'll come back for the next one.